Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Liz Zavatsky. I am currently serving as the executive director of Ecochallenge.org, which is the nonprofit organization putting on the Earth Month Eco Challenge and this Earth Month webinar. I want to say thank you very much to all of our panelists today for being here. We appreciate what you do. We appreciate the skills, knowledge, and passion that you're going to share with us. Thank you so much for putting your time into this. It really means a lot, and it enhances our program and what we are trying to do in our mission of inspiring people to take action for the planet. I want to thank also everyone who's joining, our participants here. Those of you who are taking action through the Earth Month Eco Challenge, thank you. You are making a difference. Those of you who are just learning about us and maybe not yet participating in the Earth Month Eco Challenge, you are welcome. And we are so happy to have you here to learn about this important topic of hope and resiliency, and also to learn a little bit about ecochallenge.org. We are a nonprofit organization. We've been around for 30 years. And I said that our mission was around inspiring people to take action for the planet or take responsibility for the planet. We really want to help drive change from an individual level to help shift systems. And so that's our approach. We want to do that through a behavior change supportive way and help everyone understand the agency that we have every single day in the choices that we make. So thank you all for being a part of this community. I also want to say thank you to our sponsors for the Earth Month Eco Challenge, specifically our presenting sponsor, Emerson. We cannot do this without sponsors. The Earth Month Eco Challenge, Beyond Plastic Eco Challenge, the People's Eco Challenge, they are all free and open to the public because we have sponsor support. So thank you so much to all of our sponsors this year. We really appreciate that. I am excited for today, and I'm really hoping that you all are excited as well to learn, see what you can be inspired by and the actions that you might want to take as a result after this. Lauren's going to share a lot of resources, and I know you're going to learn a lot from our panelists. So thank you for being here. And Lauren, I will turn it over back to you.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Watkins. I am the Programs and Learning Manager for Ecochallenge.org. And I am going to kick us off by introducing our theme, which is hope and resiliency. And I was chatting with you, Dr. Clayton, about the theme for it. And I was like, I'm thinking hope because this feels like the right time. People need that, or resiliency because people need that too. And she's like, let's just do both. So that's what we're doing. That's how that happened. So hope and resiliency, two things we all might really feel like we need to tap into right now. And I just wanted to thank all of you, my friends and colleagues, for being here, because if I were going to plan a really cool dinner party that I know would have a lot of really interesting conversations, this would be it right here. I can imagine us all sitting around a table and all the places that conversation would go. So let's get into it. Let's start it. So I want to kick it off. The way we're going to roll this is I'm going to let each of you introduce yourself, because folks have been able to see your bio, and I'm sure they want to hear it on your own words. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Susan Clayton. And really quick plug, one of Dr. Clayton's articles is in our newest edition of Choices for Sustainable Living, one of our most popular discussion books in our store. So excited to have you in our new edition, and I'll let you introduce yourself, and then each of you are going to answer what in your work gives you hope right now. Take it away, Dr. Clayton.
All right. Well, thanks, Lauren. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for putting together this session, which, as you said, is so important. And I know we have a lot to talk about, so I'll get right to the point. I'm Dr. Susan Clayton. I'm a professor of psychology at the College of Worcester, and I've been studying the relationship between people and the natural world for about 20 years. In the past 10 or 15 years, increasingly focused on the impacts of climate change on mental health and sort of psychosocial well-being. So what gives me hope right now? I want to preface that by saying that hope, I think we need to not consider just as a reactive emotion, but as a deliberate choice, something we choose to be hopeful. And so I hope everybody here will choose to be hopeful. In particular, I'm hopeful because we know so much more about the importance of the natural environment to human well-being than we did even 5 or 10 years ago. And that increased knowledge, not just in general, but also of the ways in which that might be experienced differently for different people in different situations. That's associated with a strong increase in awareness of the importance of the link between humans and the natural world. And you can see this in all kinds of domains as people talk about reconnecting with nature, rewilding, the importance of getting outside, and so on. So kind of the third aspect of that that gives me hope is the increased variety and potential of ways in which people engage with efforts to engage with and also protect the natural environment. You just see so much happening in so many different ways, and that's really inspiring.
Thank you, Dr. Clint. Yeah, I knew this would already make me feel better just today, just hearing all these reasons to be hopeful. And I'm so excited for what the rest of you had to share. I'm going to go next to Moji Egan. If you would like to share a little bit about you and what is giving you hope.
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Moji. I am calling in from Seattle, Washington today. It's a beautiful day outside, which is, exciting for us over here. I am a zero waste consultant, and I work specifically with businesses, with local governments, and with community organizations. So, finding ways to reduce waste and just be lighter on the planet. And what's bringing me hope is honestly rooms like this, and pretty much every single room that I'm in, whether it's a virtual space or a physical space. Everyone is hungry for information and eager to act. And that makes me excited because there's always, news headlines that stress us out, make us overwhelmed and worrisome. And that's very real. But at the same time, there are so many people who are ready and willing to act and counter that work or do things to make the world a better place. And that makes me excited and hopeful. So that's my answer.
Beautifully said. Every time I interact with you, I always learn something new, and I know that you offer a lot of great resources for people to take action to be zero waste and more friendly to the planet. So, a plug for Moji is some of Moji's resources are in our Earth Month Eco Challenge action card. So, some of those about reducing waste, you can flip them over. You'll see links to resources to some of her amazing stuff with Blue Daisi Consulting. So, thank you for letting me promote some of that. All right. Connie, let's go over to you in your beautiful forest background. Tell us about where you are and what gives you hope.
Yeah, I'm here at the Cincinnati Nature Center in Ohio, and I've worked in the nature center business for over 30 years now. And I've always felt that the theory of change, that if people just loved nature more, they would do the right thing, was not complete enough. So I've spent my recent years of my career trying to figure out what really motivates people to protect the planet. And I think what makes me most hopeful right now is that in the process of trying to understand systems and cause and effect and solutions, I've realized there's many good people working on improving our communities, our politics, and our environment. But we won't find them if we keep looking at social media. We find them when we ask questions that lead us to them. And I think the other thing is, growing up with this idea that I am personally responsible for protecting the earth, right? I think a lot of us were given a little bit too much of an idea that we are personally responsible, this eco guilt, and we have to fix this, we have to fix this. And in an individualistic society, it sort of means like we have to do it all by ourselves. But lately, I've realized that I don't have to solve this problem alone. I can't solve this problem alone. When I let go of that burden and start reaching out and connecting to other people, I find out there's people from all walks of life and all parts of the political spectrum that are very reasonable and trying to figure out how to move forward. And we are wired for connection, and it's that desire and intent to connect with one another that brings me hope.
I love that. And Connie, if I can share something that I know about you personally, is that your answer might allude to the fact that people might say, oh, that's an extrovert's point of view. But you're actually a very self-proclaimed introvert. So I hope we get to hear a little bit about, how introverts can find that path of being hopeful too. And I know you're doing a lot of cool things like that.
Thanks.
All right, Chris, let's go over to you and share some of your cool work and what gives you hope.
Sure. So my name is Chris Frangione. I work in the space of open innovation, which I have to give you the 20-second overview of what that is, because not a lot of people know what that is. Open innovation is the idea of bringing ideas in from the outside. So it's both the culture of somebody like NASA, who I spend a lot of my time with, being willing to take ideas from the outside, and also the the process of bringing those ideas in. But when you bring those ideas in and when you go out to the outside, you really don't care where those ideas come from, what those people do for a living, if they went to college or where they went to college, what the resume says, et cetera, et cetera. You just put out a really bold goal that would be great if we could solve it. And then those people spend their own time and money to solve it in hopes of winning a large cash prize or some mentoring or some whatever it may be. So that's the type of work I do. What gives me hope is that people want to and are hungry to be asked to help. And I'll give you an example. We just closed the first phase of a open innovation challenge called Lunar Recycle with NASA. This was about recycling our wastes that we will inevitably create on the moon into usable products, right? So we don't want to, it serves two purposes. One, we don't want to have to bring more stuff up because it's super expensive for us to do that. And two, we don't want to make the moon a landfill. So what gives me hope is that we had over 170 teams spend the last 6 months, their own time, their own money, to develop initial concepts for this. They're from all over the world. I can't give you stats yet because we're just evaluating them right now. It just closed on March 30th. But that's what gives me hope, that there are people hungry. If you ask them, they will do it. Now, I will tell you, just as a caveat, if you go and you Google Lunar Recycle, you're going to get a lot of information. The New York Post wrote a wrong article on it and said it was about human waste. It has nothing to do with human waste, but all the other news organizations picked it up. Back to somebody's comment that the news is not really helping us right now. But you can dig down and find out what it's actually really about. But that's what gives me hope.
That's awesome. And I've been involved with the beginning stages of one of your innovation challenges to help people across the southeastern United States with forested property, how to find solutions to help them generate more income so they keep it forested and not have to convert it to other things like development. So you do a lot of really neat, innovative things, and I'm glad that we'll get to hear more from you soon. And last but certainly not least, we have Mafe Barahona Cruz. If you would like to introduce yourself and the amazing work you do, what gives you hope, please?
Thank you, Lauren. Hi to everyone. My name is Maria Fernanda Mafe. I'm from Colombia, and I work for the conservation of the Amazon rainforest in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, and Peru. And particularly, I work for the protection of indigenous rights and indigenous people in isolation. These are people that have never been contacted before. So my work is very challenged because I work for protect people that I cannot contact. So that's my work. I've been working here for 5 years or so. One of the things that give me hope is that I hope that future generations still have this idea of people that have never been contacted before, because I consider that they are like an example of resistance to colonization, development, civilization in general, and that they can live without Instagram, without planes, without roads. So if they can, and they do it, and they are happy, we certainly can lower our consumption on a lot of things. And the second one is that on daily basis, I have to speak to indigenous leaders, indigenous people that live around them, and are the ones that certainly lead their protection. And in the daily basis, they are like, Mafe, I cannot send you the document because I am going fishing, because today there are a lot of fish in the river, so you have to wait. And that gives me a lot of hope, because that means that the forest is still is providing all the needs that these people need. So if they are happy going fishing, then I have to still do my job and sit in my computer in Bogota so they can go fish. I think that's completely valuable. So yeah, that gives me hope.
And that gave me chills. That was a beautiful answer, Mafe. Thank you for sharing that anecdote. Yeah, that's just the diversity of all the work you do is so cool. Thank you. I'm so excited. Okay, so we have 4 questions for our panelists that we're going to start with, and not everyone's going to answer each one. They've already kind of pre-selected the ones they want to speak to, just so folks know how this works behind the scenes. But if there's things that you are curious about, you can use the chat, just keeping in mind that only the host of panelists can see it. And I see your beautiful feedback already. Thank you, Yvette. And if you have questions, please put them in either the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get to them if we have time. So, all right, Moji and Chris, we're going to start with the 2 of you. I'm going to go to you first, Moji, and then you, Chris. How can the private sector, so private sector entities like businesses and schools, how do they play a meaningful role in advancing conservation and sustainability efforts? Moji, go ahead.
Yeah, so many ways. There's so many opportunities for exciting innovation in both of those spaces. I'll talk about schools first. I literally last night just finished a project where I was developing 6 months of after-school curriculum for high school and college age students to understand how zero waste, the circular economy works, and then figure out how to design their own circular economy projects. And so my answer to your question is get students thinking about not only how the world works, but how the world could be, and get them involved in creating their own solutions at a young age so that they're prepared to enter the workforce in the world with these creative ideas that are rooted in sustainability. So that's my first part of the answer. And then second part with businesses, I would say one of the reasons why I like working with small businesses in particular is because small business owners are creative. They are people who went out into the world and said that their idea, the way that they want to do it is the way that they want the world to exist, if that makes sense. So they could have worked for someone else and, just done a regular job, but they decided to create their own business and do it their own special way. And so my advice or my hope for businesses is to use that same creative energy to incorporate sustainability into the work that they do and create a sustainable world that they wish that existed. So use that same creative energy they use to design their own business into incorporating sustainable practices into their business.
That's such a, and I know you've done that yourself. You own a small business that you started, and I've loved watching it grow and see all the energy behind it. So you're speaking from a very deep point of expertise on that. So thanks for sharing. I'm excited to see how the after school program pans out too. All right, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, so again, because I come from the world of open innovation, that's how I think. I think all the experts in the room aren't the ones that have the best ideas. And so my view of what schools and businesses can do is ask for help, right? Just say, hey, we have these challenges. We want to reduce the waste here, or we want to be more energy efficient there, or we want to do this. And here's our constraints. We don't have a lot of money, or we are, we have to keep a clean environment, or we have to do whatever it might be. So hey, world or small group of people, go figure it out for us, right? And use the principles of open innovation to get those ideas that you just don't expect to get. So, if you do traditional grants or contracts when you're going out for help, you're really looking at resumes, and you're really, checking to make sure that organization's going to deliver, and you're going to get really good results because they're known players and they have a great LinkedIn and they have a great website and they have great references, but you might not get those most creative ideas, right? Same as the entrepreneurs we were talking about. There might be great ideas somewhere elsewhere. And so my advice is just ask for help. Just say, hey, and you can do this very inexpensively, very efficiently. A lot of universities will do it just to get ideas. And so don't think you need to know all the answers. Don't think it's going to be super expensive to solve your problems. Engage your community, whether that's your students or your customers, to help you solve them.
No, that's a really interesting idea of engaging your customers too to help you solve the problem, because they, especially if they are already repeat customers, they probably have a vested interest in your success and can feel kind of honored by the approaching having a problem with that humility to be open to ideas from people who are non-experts.
So just to give you a couple of quick examples, we used to do challenges, and we said, okay, here's the challenge for the grown-ups, and then here's this little fun thing that like high school kids and kids that are younger can do it. And then we realized that like that little fun thing, that little patronizing, oh, you guys are so cute. They were coming up with as good of ideas as the adults were, the adults. And so we got rid of that and started, you know, expanding past that. And said, hey, literally anybody can do this. And then another example is one of the organizations I work with is the largest health network in New Jersey. And you know, they're a nonprofit, and they have 36,000 employees, and they always ask their employees, we run multiple challenges a year to get feedback in specific areas, not suggestion box things, like actually like, here's a new innovation that can do this, or a new process that can do that. And we started opening up to patients, you know, our customers, and the results have been amazing. So that's I'm on a soapbox, I realize, and I apologize, but I truly believe in the power of the crowd.
That's great. Well, they're here to be on 5 soapboxes, so get on your soapboxes. No worries at all. We do have, Moji, I'm going to come back to you. We have one question from the audience that, while we're still on the private sector, and they're asking, how can a for-profit corporate business do sustainability work that aligns with their goals? Because sometimes that can be a big barrier for corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially with like larger businesses, it's harder to move, it's harder to shift and pivot quickly. So that's why I love working with small businesses. But I think it's really it's a challenge because there are so many competing priorities for businesses. They also have to make money. And so sometimes I would look at a business and say, if you just did these things, like it would be so great and so sustainable and it'd be perfect. But they also have to think about the true cost, the labor, the, you know, regulations, whatever is involved in running their business. There are other constraints that have to be balanced in making a sustainable choice. And so it's finding the best balance of all of those things that work for that specific business, which is why there's no one size fits all solution. So it's really about balancing all those different trade-offs.
Yeah, and it sounds like doing what you can with what you have and going easy on yourself while you're finding your way to sustainability, probably too. All right, so we'll take a little bit of a detour away from the private sector and chat with Mafe and Connie and Susan. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you stay hopeful and motivated in the face of ongoing challenges in your work and your community. Mafe, I'll start with you and hear what you think about that. Any words of wisdom for us?
Okay, thank you. So in my case, I have like 3 main mechanisms, I will call them, to keep hope, because we're losing the Amazon every day. So it's difficult to stay hopefully. So my first one is to feel that I am part of something bigger. So feel that every day there is something bigger than me and my work, and maybe answering the emails and answering the phone, and just feel that these have a reason and a purpose, and like put some meaning to the day work. Because even though sometimes I think that we get lost on the email and on the chatting and the Teams meeting, and we lost the purpose of what we are doing. In the same line, I think that the feeling that I'm not alone, that is very important, because sometimes when you face, I don't know, like illegal gold mining and mercury contamination, then you feel like, oh my God, this is huge. I cannot do this alone. So feeling that you're part of something bigger, and realize that there are people in science, in private companies, in universities doing research, then you feel that you're part of something bigger. Not only like a bigger goal, but also a bigger team. Like there is a global team in different countries that are trying to face the same challenges that you are. And when that doesn't work, the third mechanism is to go simple and just feel and go back to my home and see the little things that we do to save or fight climate change or something like that. Like recycling, and how are we saving a little amount of energy every time that we take a shower. So when the bigger idea doesn't work, then go super small to my day-to-day exercise. So I do it that way.
I love that. I love how you broke it down too, of like, if this doesn't work, then try this. Then in case of emergency, go home and just relax and see the simplicity in things. That's beautiful. Very, very good words of wisdom there. And Mafe, once Connie and I had a whole conversation about that, about being part of a bigger global team, that it feels, going back to your point, Connie, of like that individual responsibility. I can feel that in my chest sometimes, that stress, but we are part, obviously here, just a global group of people. We had, just so folks know, we had hundreds of people register for this webinar. That's our global team too, because they care about this stuff too. So there's people all over the world doing amazing things all the time. So that's a really good nugget to leave us with, Mafe. Thank you. All right, I would love to hear from you, Dr. Clayton, a little bit about what helps you stay hopeful and motivated in your work.
Oh, yeah, well, I certainly agree with everything that other people have said, but and the foundational thing that motivates me is, of course, how important and significant the issue is. And it's daunting. It certainly can be daunting, but it also provides a significant source of meaning to think that we're working on addressing this issue that has such global and long-lasting and widespread significance. So that's very motivating. Another thing I want to mention gets back to what Connie was talking about, that trying not to just feel responsible as an individual, but recognize we share the responsibility. But since I'm aware of and alert to all those things other people are doing, I don't want to be a free rider, right? I want to be a good person. So I don't want to have, to just be relying on other people to do all the work. So that kind of motivates me to stay involved. And then a third thing, sort of paradoxically, that motivates me is to remind myself of how bad things have been in the past, not just environmentally, but politically, socially. We, in the last 100 years, really devastating world wars, anti-Semitism, racism, all kinds of bad things. And things have changed. Things sometimes change for the worse, but they also change for the better, and they change sometimes very, very quickly. So I think sometimes you forget how easy it is for things to change dramatically, and bearing that in mind, that this is not a uniquely terrible place we find ourselves in, but it's just we're facing some bad situations. They do have the potential to be changed very quickly, and that's motivating.
Yeah, that is interesting the way you put it, paradoxically speaking. It's fascinating in all the places we can find motivation, right? All right, let's go to Connie. I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, Susan, I 100% agree with you. I think the older generations remind me we've seen hard times before, right? And there's been some, look at the Vietnam War and all the social strife around that. And you're right, things can change quickly. And I think one of the things that keeps me positive is seeing the desire for that change at the local level. I think focusing on the local level is where I find the most hope, because that's where I can connect with people and get to know them as people, not just ideology or just, the other. One of the things I think we struggle with are a couple of different mindsets that are harmful for us. I've already mentioned one, this hyper individualism. It's all on us. We have to fix it alone. And as Chris said, we can crowdsource this stuff. We're not on our own. Susan said that too. But also this idea of pessimism that, we're doomed. It's never going to get any better. That is such a false it's such a trap, because pessimism is easy. It's so easy to be pessimistic. First of all, we're wired to feel negative. And secondly, or to look for negativity. And secondly, pessimism calls us to do nothing. Optimism makes us work hard. And so it's hard to be an optimist, because it means we have to embrace the challenge. But when we can do that and put down our self-righteous indignation and our judgment of other people and seek first to understand, I have found people to be fascinating, and they have lots of good perspectives and priorities that I completely can relate to. If they're not protecting the environment, it's not because they're stupid or ignorant or evil. They just have some other higher priority. Maybe it's mental health issues. Maybe it's, the opioid crisis to the east of us or what have you. And they're just trying to figure it out to do the best good for the most people. For the most part, people are good. And I think that when I can set down my own judgment and sort of get to know people on a local level, I feel delighted by the new perspectives and the new ideas that they bring to the table. And I can just let go of the anger and say, okay, I understand we have a bias to want to focus on the most immediate problems first, like homelessness in our society, in our community, rather than, climate change that happens slowly over time. I get that. We're human. That's how we think. But can I form a relationship with you by seeking first to understand? And I can do that as an introvert because it's mostly focused on the other person and seeking to know what they know that I don't know. And when I go into a conversation like that, I find people are so generous with their time, with their expertise, with their perspectives. They lower their guard. And I find that we are all pretty much the same. We have way more in common than we do different. That gives me hope that we can solve hard problems together.
That is very beautifully said. I keep saying that over and over again. I do mean it. You all are just like sharing so much rich information and so many rich thoughts. And I know one of the things, Connie, you've been working on for a while is trying to understand, you and I together too, of like working on behavior change at the community level and helping people understand how their community civics work and helping people figure out what they can do, especially when you're trying to move from being pessimistic to optimistic and channeling that energy into something. So, Connie, I'm curious from you, like what small actions or habits do you think that if people were widely adopting them could lead to significant change or systemic change?
Sure. I think the first one is intellectual humility. Just being willing to say, I don't know, tell me more. I find so many people are so judgmental. I'll give you a story. A lady I was talking to the other day, she's an organic gardener. She hired somebody to help her with landscaping around her house. He does all kinds of farming. He's into native plants, but he believes that Roundup is okay to use. He uses it a lot. She thinks it's a horrible poison, and she fired him from the job. He wasn't even using it at her house, but just ideologically they were different. And I said to her, did you ask him how he came to hold that belief? And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, no. It's like, so you didn't even want to know what life experiences led him to have these beliefs, and she did not. So I really think that being intellectually humble and curious about other people is a habit we can all develop. I think another thing that we can do in terms of a habit or an action, we can all run for local office. Did you know that? You don't have to be a career politician. And local offices, at least in Ohio, are nonpartisan. So I'm talking township trustees, I'm talking school board, and I'm talking village council and city council people. You can just be a person. And unless it's a big community where there's some people that are trying to go up the political ladder, starting to serve locally and then go to state. Maybe they even have national aspirations. A lot of smaller communities, it's just whoever steps up. If you don't step up, then you don't have an opportunity to change the conversation in your community. Then maybe that's like a huge step for you. Even going to your public meetings and getting to know your community leaders on a one. And let me give you an example of this one. So 3 days ago, I found out that there is a conditional use petition to put a concrete plant behind my house on the land that's zoned industrial behind my house. I live in the country. Luckily, long before this happened, I got to know our planning and zoning director because I was curious about how development works in our community, how decisions are made, what his job looks like, what keeps him up at night. So I basically formed a relationship with him, sort of like a journalist. I went in and I was just like, I want to get to know you better. I'm curious about you. And he was so happy that somebody wanted to know something about him and his work that he was so kind. And since then, I've had him talk to the nature center folks about housing and everything. So he sent this to me and said, Connie, this is up for a decision in your backyard. And he has to stay neutral. But I kind of know that he's going to be on my side a little bit and so I've started to connect with my community more and talking to other people and saying, hey, there's a place for this, but it's probably not in our backyards. Not that I want to be a not in my backyard kind of person, but there's other places that are already industrial where something like this would be better off than in our backyards. Just saying. But I think the idea here is that the one thing everybody can do is long before they want to go protest at a public meeting, just get to know the people who represent you. And if you don't think they have your values in mind, maybe run for office yourself or support somebody who better reflects your values. Democracy starts at a local level first, and then those ripples can change what the state and the national arena of politics looks like.
I have to share this, Connie, since you brought that up, because I didn't know you were going to share that. That one of the reasons I'm an appointed official in my small town is because I learned you were, and I was like, okay, just having those people that you trust, like telling you can do it, and then going and like trying it out. I was absolutely terrified at first, but now I'm 5 years in and just got reappointed. So and it was really scary, but you can do it, and it does make a difference because now I sort of understand how things work behind the scenes, and it actually made me feel more mentally healthy in my community, understanding how things work instead of just going straight to anger about why it's happening, because there's so much going on behind the scenes all the time.
I'm so proud of
Yeah.
you, Lauren. I'm proud of
Woo!
you. That's excellent.
Ditto, friend. Okay, so we're going to go to our one last pre-prepared question for our some of our panelists chose. So I want to encourage everyone that's listening. There's 165 of you live right now, so I'm sure you've got some questions. You can go ahead and start putting them in the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll see if we can get to some of those. But in the meantime, Chris, I want to go with you. If you could share one piece of advice or one resource with people who are feeling hopeless about the state of the world, what would it be?
I did have this question in advance, and I've thought about it. I've thought about it a lot, and have gone back and forth on it. But I think the piece of advice is that small actions can add up. We all feel very, or at least I do, and I'm sure many of you do, feel very overwhelmed right now with everything going on in the world, and probably in your own personal lives as a result of that. So little things can make big differences if we all do it. And an example I'll give is, we do a lot of citizen science type work, and wanting to collect research, and we don't have big budgets to do this stuff, but if you can just encourage, each person to go in their backyard and count the number of bees, all of a sudden those little actions add up to a big amount of data and research. So, that's just an example of how your small actions can have a bigger impact. So that would be my thing. Just do something, right? Go plant something in your backyard, just take that small action.
Oh, I'm on
You were
mute.
muted.
There we go. Somebody had to do it. It had to be me, right? Yeah, so just starting somewhere, and that's a great advice. And speaking of that, Mohammed asked in the chat, how do I make Ecochallenge part of my daily routine in our personal life? I'm going to answer that myself now to tag on to what Chris just shared, because Ecochallenge, the Earth Month Ecochallenge right now is going on just for April, but there are other ones that if you go on, you'll see that you can participate in. Beyond Plastic Ecochallenge is coming out in July. We have the People's Ecochallenge in October, and we have a few that are a little bit more often, depending on if you're on campus, that can participate in almost all year long, or one that's more coordinated with climate change action. So you can check these out, log in, and then just see actions that you can take and watch your impact add up. So check those out, because if you wanted to participate in that, there are several free opportunities throughout the year that you can do that, Mohammed, and others that want to check out the Ecochallenge platform. So thank you for asking that too. Okay, we got some great questions coming in. We'll come back to these in a moment. Moji, I want to go to you. If you could share one piece of advice or one resource with people feeling hopeless, what would it be?
I'm going to cheat a little and share two pieces of advice, if that's okay. And they go together. One is that reiterating what's already been said today is that you're not alone in this work. So there's, 100 whatever of us here today, hundreds more in the challenge, multiply that by however many people are in your community. All these people are working on these kinds of problems every single day. So just don't forget that and keep that in the front of your mind. And then at the same time, remember that good things take time. So there's been, I want to share an example, something that's exciting that's happened recently, which is here in Washington State, just yesterday, I believe, right to repair, which is a law that's been in the works in the state for 6 years. I've personally been advocating it for 3 years, finally got passed in the House and the Senate, which means that it's on its way to the governor's desk, like imminently. And so 6 years on this one policy in this one state, and that takes a lot of time and energy from so many people. But we had a win recently. And so just knowing that that's happening all the time is that good things are happening all the time and they take time. So yeah.
Those are great 2 nuggets. Thank you. And I'll always let y'all slide in one more if you want to. So you can do more than one if you need to. All right. Mafe, let's go to you. What is something you would share with people?
I think that one thing that can help us feel a little bit more hopeless when you feel that like really bad about the world is to see good news. I think that we all day and mostly the people that we're facing like this type of problems, we see the whole day bad news. So I think that just looking like proactively look for good news help us feel more hope about the world. I will put an example. Like the other day, we were fighting, doing this complaint about mining in Brazil, and a lot of people has been affected. But on the same river that we were trying to save, there was a video that another NGO developed of a jaguar mom teaching the baby jaguar how to swim. Well, that's all you need. You just need to see that and say like, okay, this is good enough, and that's the only hope that I need. So I think that try to consume good news, because bad news are all over everywhere. So proactively look for good news that give you hope. In my case, of course, jaguars, but in the case of everyone, like kids or environment or families or new technology. I don't know what gives you hope. Look for that.
Yeah, that's great advice. But it can be so easy to get in the bad news wormhole. Thank you for that reminder that it is as simple as just putting yourself in a better mood by finding something more positive. All right, Dr. Clayton, what about you? What's something you would share with others? And then we'll go to questions from the audience.
Absolutely. I think my first piece of advice would be to find your people. And this can be useful both for, I'm thinking about our own individual resilience and well-being, but also societal change. You're finding people who support you and whose values align with yours, and just sharing your emotional responses can be so reassuring, can help you cope with the burden of anxiety that we all feel at times. Also, of course, finding those people can help you identify the actions and engage in the actions that might actually make a difference. And then beyond that, I would say talk to people, because people who, one of the things we know is that a significant majority of people, would like to see greater support for nature protection and for addressing climate change, for example. But people underestimate the extent to which other people feel that way. And so one of the things we can do that I think will actually create change is to kind of make that more of a topic of conversation. Say, this is important to me, and then you'll be surprised to find how many other people it's important to as well. And that as we recognize the kind of extent of social support, that makes it a stronger political force.
Thank you, Dr. Clayton. And actually, while I have you on the mic, while you're not muted, we're going to go ahead and go to a question someone submitted for you, which is, how can a person for themselves internalize what a healthy relationship looks like between humans and nature? How do we inspire others to have this realization and prioritize the climate? So big question there.
It is a big question. It's a great question. I'll sort of give a very broad answer, which is to just be more mindful, and being more mindful about the impact of the things we do. So we might, most of us act on autopilot a lot of the time. We do things because we've always done them that way. So just being a little bit more aware of, are these things having a positive or a negative impact on the planet? Are there alternative ways we could engage in those same things that would perhaps have a more positive effect? But also being mindful about what makes us happy, what calms us down, taking the time to I think so much of the time we are so aware of the threats to the planet that we may forget to allow ourselves to have those positive experiences. So go out to a place like Connie's background there at the Cincinnati Nature Center. Go for a walk or just go in your backyard and listen to the birds, think, be aware of those moments that really provide stress reduction and restoration and calmness, and think this is what it means to have a positive relationship, to allow myself to have those nature experiences.
Yeah, thank you. It helps us remember to go reconnect with what we're already stressed about, that it's still there, it's still worth saving, and remember how it makes us feel. That's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Clayton. Chris, we have one for you, which is, where can they find more information about the lunar recycling project? I know you said it's down the way on the Google. So if you
I
have the
will,
link handy.
I'll send it. I can't, I was trying to respond to everybody, but it looks like you can. So I will put the link in there, and then you can, I'll put the link in the chat that you can then give to everybody.
Perfect. That sounds good. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go to, we got one that I want to hear from Moji and Mafe, because your experience and the things you do are very different. So I'm interested to hear your perspective from your two different realms of your expertise. So the question is that sustainability, I believe they mean, as a word, a concept, is broad, very broad. So how do you each think about sustainability? How do you define it? Moji, you want to go first?
Yeah, sorry, I have an unmute. That's a great question. And I feel like my definition is changing all the time. It's constantly in development. But what I usually go back to is call sustainability a synonym for thriving. And so all land and life can thrive when we're living and being sustainable. That's how I think about it. So yeah, anything that you can do to make people thrive, both with the ecological aspect of it, but also like the emotional, mental health, economic well-being side of it, all of that is considered sustainability in my mind.
I love that. Sustainability is thriving. That's beautiful. Mafe, what about you? How do you think about sustainability?
Well, I for me, sustainability is kind of an empty concept, sadly. It can mean everything, but nothing at the same time in different contexts. But I think that the idea or the spirit of sustainability is to make happy, like to make people happy on the long term, whatever happy means for everyone. So sustainability for an indigenous community probably means a lot of things different than from me, or different than from someone that is living in the US. But the whole point is that you take into account your happiness, but also the happiness of other people. And when you do that, then you will have something that is kind of sustainable in some sort of time, including generations, including different territories, including different ideas, different hopes, different dreams. So I think that it can be everything. I won't fix to one definition of sustainability in terms of environmental, economic, and social management, because I think that can be everything. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I'm curious. That's such a good point. And these definitions are so different because they're from our own lived perspectives. I'm going to call on a few other of you, if you don't mind. Chris, like, how do you think about sustainability?
I don't, because I agree, it has such a broad terminology. I try to think much more, and maybe it's just the wrong way to look at things. I try to think much more narrowly about things, right? Like, what is the impact of this specific decision that I'm making, or the specific action that, this organization is taking? So I think it's just because I'm not a specialist in this that I don't have a strong view of it. So I'm probably not a good person to listen to on this specific topic.
Well, I think you're probably very relatable. A lot of people don't think about sustainability, or at least not in that kind of a niche way where it's woven into all that we do all day long. And I think you pointing that out is a really important point in and of itself, because it can give people Also what we're talking about, a through line today, I think, is a little bit of grace and patience with ourselves as we're on our pathways to whatever a thriving future looks like, whether it's sustainability is the word you use or something else, but it's just trying to have, just positive. People just want to feel good and healthy and innovative. And I think actually, that's a great point that you make yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for that. Connie, what about you? How do you think about sustainability?
Well, I think, of course, the traditional idea of economic viability and social stability and environmental, health. You can't separate those three things, because what I've learned from the public officials I've spoken with is that, there's a lot of social services that need to be provided to keep people healthy and thriving. And then, of course, if there's not a good economy, then priorities, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're unemployed, you're not too worried about the environment. So you have to have a healthy economy. And then the environment, without a healthy environment, none of the rest matters. So they really have to all be considered together. And I guess that's just all I think about when I think about sustainability is balance. And also the idea that there are no simple answers. Any ideas about an answer that we have, a policy, a process, somebody will benefit and somebody else will not. And so then you have to figure out where the compromise is, the greatest good for the greatest number. How do you make those decisions in a democratic republic? And that involves all of us to be citizens of our communities. We have the right and the responsibility to require a healthy environment, but we also have the right and the responsibility to require a livelihood and health and happiness in our in our community, our social lives. So it's not easy, and sustainability is an unattainable goal, but we can do the best we can to find decent compromises, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Connie, while you're unmuted too, speaking of finding compromises, there's a question for you earlier that says, do you have any advice on how to cultivate more active listening
I
when
do.
everyone is busy? Yeah,
I
in
do.
meetings.
I think it's like any other behavior change strategy, right? You need to start by thinking about your values. Why do you want to be an active listener? I truly have come to believe that connection is the only way forward to solve environmental problems and social problems. And so I've stated it. So I've made a commitment to out loud in public to everybody I can that this is important to me. This is my belief system now about how we can move forward for a better world. So once you make a public commitment, it's a lot easier to hold yourself accountable because people are watching you at work, right? Then if you can make it social by getting some of your coworkers to commit to being better active listeners too, you have an accountability buddy, just like exercise or Weight Watchers, right? And so you have that part of it. And you can even, after a meeting, catch each other and say, hey, I saw how you, instead of getting all upset about that, that snide comment, you asked how they came to hold that belief or something. And I was really impressed that you kept your cool. And so you can reinforce one another. If you have people that know what you're trying to do and they're giving you feedback, that matters an awful lot. I think reading, where we focus our attention is where we focus our lives, right? So I put something in the chat, the Greater Good Science Center at Berkeley. They have this great newsletter with all these great ideas about how we can bridge differences and connect to one another. Intellectual humility, all these types of things, these techniques, they curate all these ideas on how to connect better with one another. That's their whole shtick. And so I read that stuff constantly. Every day they send something. So my attention is going there instead of some news broadcast about how everybody's so polarized. That's not helpful to me. I don't need to hear that. And so then I think the other things are, every good Stoic philosopher would say that you should spend some time at the end of the day reflecting on how you lived your values during the day. How'd you do? Where'd you fail? And of course, you're going to fail. If you didn't fail, you wouldn't grow. But being aware of that and having multiple motives, I think, is important too. So remind yourself that it's not just about communicating better with others or connecting for the purpose of, making the world a better place. It's also because it makes us calmer. It gives us a better sense of belonging. It calms us. It makes us happier to connect, even as an introvert. It makes us happier to feel that we found some way to connect to other people and that people are essentially good. And that's a strong motivation as well.
We are a social species, so you're reminding us about that today and encouraging us to go back out there and socialize in real life, not just online. So
Yes,
thank you for
that's
that.
right. That's right.
So we'll close it out with you, Dr. Clayton. There's a question that because I know the specialty and the deep experience you have with environmental identity too. So this question kind of made me think about your expertise there of how do we think about the relationship between capitalism and perpetual growth? And we deep down, I'm sure I joke about my lizard brain. I know it's tied to the environment, and I know that deep down, I know that some of my capitalist behaviors are bad for the environment, and I get cognitive dissonance from that. So do you have any advice for us as we close out today? We're thinking about sustainability and Earth Month, of how we can keep, these kind of things in mind.
Thanks. That's a big question, and I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to take on capitalism at that sort of level. But I think what it reminds us to do, capitalism does have the tendency to want to encourage us to think about well-being or defining what makes us happy or what makes a nation good in terms of kind of what we own, how much we're worth, how much our country has produced. And at the national level, there's been so much progress or new perspectives introduced recently in terms of thinking, is that really all we care about? How much we've produced, how much money we have? We all recognize that that's not what really makes us happy. So thinking about alternative sources of happiness, social connection, which has come up over and over in today's discussion, is one of the most important things in predicting our happiness as well as our physical and mental health. Time in a healthy environment, meaningful work, those kinds of things. So I think it's, for me, it's like, don't let them fool you into thinking that what will make you happy is an afternoon at the shopping mall, because really it won't. It might, that's not to say it can't sometimes be fun, but what's really going to make you happy is your social connections and your connections to a healthy natural world.
Oh, well, on that note, I think that was just really beautiful. Thanks for closing that loop, Dr. Clayton. And I just really appreciate all of you so much for your thoughts. I want to look at the transcript of all this and just copy and paste all these amazing things you said. I feel like we have like 20 bumper stickers and so we just need to stick everywhere. There's so many good quotes. So thank you. It was just really, really amazing to be with all of you. And don't forget to click the link for the PDF. I'll go ahead and drop it as a file as well, because some of you messaged that you're having trouble using the link at work. And I'll turn it over to Liz for any final thoughts today.
Thank you, Lauren, for leading this. Thank you all to our panelists, truly inspiring, and such a week that we celebrate Earth Day, that hopefully we can all reconnect with the planet in a meaningful way to each of us, but also reconnect with one another. So the things that you shared were really powerful today, and I know that I'll be thinking about them a lot, and hopefully everyone can take them back to their circles of network and influence to continue the conversations and have some intentional interactions with people. So thank you all. We really, really appreciate it. And to those of you participating in Earth Month Eco Challenge, keep going. We've got a week left. What you're doing matters, so don't forget that. And it's not too late to invite someone to join you for the last week either. So I hope that you soak it up and let us know if you've got any questions or need anything. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all. See you along the way. Good luck out there. Bye, everybody. Happy Earth Month.